Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Inside Track, Equibase's weekly handicapping podcast, where we give our analysis, picks, and wagers for a couple of the weekend's top races. I'm your host, Ben Kudla with Equibase. I'm joined again today by Corey Patton, a friendly and familiar face here on the Inside Track. He is also the CEO and co-founder of Pramana Labs, which creates all the stat lines handicapping content on Equibase.com. You can find those for each and every race, as well as top plays every single day on the Equibase homepage. So thank you for being here again, Corey.
As always, Ben, looking forward to today's show a lot.
Yeah, we've got a very special show today. So we have a very special guest, Doug O'Neill, a two-time Kentucky Derby winning trainer, five-time Breeders' Cup winner with 2,939 wins under his belt and over 166 million in earnings, and also has one of the greatest claims in racing history. So let's get Doug up here on the stage. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being on. And I've watched your horses run my whole life. I was lucky enough to be in attendance for I'll Have Another in Nyquist and the Kentucky Derby. So I'm just honored to meet you. And also congrats on your win yesterday at Churchill.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the greatest sport played outdoors, and very grateful to be part of it, and to be able to work alongside other men and women who have chosen to work alongside horses for a living. It's a real blessing. And like you say, Ben, we've been lucky with a few really good horses.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So being from Michigan originally, how and when, did you find your love for horse racing?
My family moved from Michigan to California when I was 10 in 1980. And the very first weekend we were here, we didn't go to Disneyland or Magic Mountain or the beach. We went to the track, went to Santa Anita racetrack. And so my dad was just always an avid fan of horse racing. And so here I was at age 10 at Santa Anita. And this is before all the advanced deposit wagering and everything. And had to be 40, 50,000 people there. And you had Shoemaker, you had just the whole pageantry of everything. I was like, wow. And I think it's safe to say I got bit by the bug right there. And right out of high school, I went to University of Del Mar, went right to the track out of high school, and I've been doing it ever since. So very happy with it.
Oh, that's so cool. Humble beginnings. Humble beginnings. So, by the early 2000s, you were a major figure in the California racing circuit. In less than 10 years of taking out your trainer's license, you had 7 graded stakes wins, including a grade 1 win in the Hollywood Gold Cup with Skyjack. How did you find that level of success at such a young age?
Yeah, I think obviously I just got very fortunate, but I worked with Jude Feld, who was one of my first bosses, and got to learn a lot with him and his crew. And then worked for Doug Peterson. I was his assistant for a while, and it's crazy. Corey and I were talking off air about baseball, and Doug Peterson, the late Doug Peterson, his son David Peterson, is pitching for the Mets. So that's kind of cool. And but I think a lot of it just had a real passion for the sport, had a real passion for the horses, and just surrounded myself with good people, and got to learn pretty quickly of if you've got a good enough horse, of how to get them there.
It's quite impressive what you've done in your career, and you've had some incredible accomplishments as a trainer, some amazing horses, Nyquist, Lava Man, Stevie Wonderboy, Hot Rod Charlie, all have another, Golden Sense, Thor's Echo. The list just goes on and on. From of all your career accomplishments, what are kind of 2 or 3 moments that stand out, as most special to you?
I think Skyjack winning the Hollywood Gold Cup, because it was so early on in my career, and at that stage, when you're kind of young and new to anything, you think the people that are winning the bigger races, or the getting the bigger jobs, or whatever career you may be in, you think, oh God, you just got to be, in our sport, I felt like I had to be Bobby Frankel, or I had to be Las Brera, or I had to be Charlie Whittingham, and to win with Skyjack in the Hollywood Gold Cup, it really gave me the confidence that, if I had a good enough horse, it's really, anything is possible. So I think as you get longer in the tooth in anything you're doing, you realize it's really not about me. It's about the individual horse that you have, or the business you have, and the people that you got surrounding you. And So that just gave us a lot of confidence with Skyjack, and it really helped build a lot of cool things.
Yeah. So full disclosure, Doug and I have known each other for about 20 years, going all the way back to he and I were both working for the legendary Merv Griffin. I believe it or not, I was Merv's chef, and Doug trained horses for him. And, Merv was a legend in entertainment, but he also had a couple of really, really nice horses as well, including Stevie Wonderboy, which, I mean, Doug, the 2005 Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner, the Eclipse winner that year, your brother, Dennis, purchased him at auction as a full O'Neill production, as Merv would say. So I do want to go back quickly, and it's just we won't take too much time, Ben, but we want to I want to go back down memory lane a bit. Talk to me about training horses for the Hollywood legend Merv, and then a little bit about kind of the potential that Stevie had before getting kind of bugged by injuries so early in his career.
Yeah, that was just, well, the whole sport, one of the many beauties of horse racing, Sport of Kings, right? And, you've got guys like Merv Griffin and so many other successful men and women. And then you've got guys that are just grinding day in, day out, living in dormitories at the track. And, but for hours at a time on each given day, they're in the same room or in the same space and going for that same thrill. So, Merv and I, even though we were just like opposite ends of success, we had that passion of, you could just tell how much Merv loved the horses and loved the sport. And so it really being around him, the awe got shrunk pretty quickly because he just started talking about horses, and it brought us right, where we were, close to being on a level playing field. But yeah, he loved it. And, we were so honored to have him. And I think a lot of times when we were in big races, pre-race interviews were more about him, which they should have been, and less about the horse. But amazing guy. And yeah, with Stevie Wonderboy, yeah, my brother's got an amazing knack of picking out horses that maybe don't jump off the page on you with pedigrees. But yeah, he was just he was a big horse, had a long stride, covered a lot of ground, very competitive. And yeah, I know. I think of that juvenile all the time with the great late Garrett Gomez, and that was such an exciting stretch run. And yeah, like you say, Corey, if he didn't get bit by the injury bug, who knows? He could have been a Kentucky Derby kind of horse for sure.
Yeah, and I think about that, Doug, quite a bit. And obviously being on the ranch with whenever that horse was laid up, being able to go down to see that giant, beautiful, chestnut horse all the time. And yeah, obviously the winner's circle that year after the juvenile was quite a special event with, Merv singing in the winner's circle as he would. But it was a good time in my memory, obviously, from when, all of that was happening in the late 2000s or the mid 2005, I think is when it was, that fall. But, Stevie was a really special horse and you never really had to worry about where to spot that horse. But something that I think about a lot, and I wanted to get your opinion on it, pick your brain on it a little bit, is how to spot horses correctly. And, you have to do that and manage that every single day. And you have so many horses and you have such a wide range of ability and, running across the country at different tracks. Walk me through your process, Doug, as how you correctly spot horses to give them the best opportunity to win. Walk me through that thought process each day.
Whew. There's it's a lot of just your gut, your instinct, your experience, but from picking out individuals that we may purchase or claim, we kind of have a checkbox of, they got to have a good foot. They've, got to have some form, something to go on that, they got a little bit of ability. We look at, from their head to their nostrils, things that just kind of maybe don't jump out at all of us, but they jump out to us at the team that I have. But, and as far as finding spots for them, there is nothing better than when you see a horse who's been competitive sprinting and you think through their pedigree or their way of going or whatever just jumps out at you that they actually might be better routing or they might be better on a different surface and they haven't tried that yet. That's an exciting thing. And actually, we might briefly talk about Two Rivers Over too. And he was kind of one of those aha moments of, God, maybe this horse might like the dirt. And so, a lot of it is trial and error, exact science, but a lot of it is to your gut, your experience, and just trying something new.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with that, I would love to talk about your entries in the California Crown. A couple stakes races at Santa Anita. So you got the Godolphin Mile winner, Two Rivers Over, entered in the Grade 2 California Crown Eddie D Stakes. How do you think he'll do after shipping back to the States after a big win like that at Maydon? And what made you choose to enter him in the Eddie?
Yeah, he's definitely a two-turn dirt horse. It's funny, he came back from Dubai off that win in great shape, and then maybe about a month or so after Dubai, he got hit with a dirt clod, just galloping another horse galloping. Dirt clod hit him in the eye, and God, we had to take him to the clinic. He was in a clinic about 3 or 4 weeks, so it just slowed down getting him back to the races. But knock on wood, he's fine now. His vision's good, his legs are good, doing well, and this just seemed it's a huge purse. It's in our own backyard. Just thought it was a good place to kind of get him back into the mix. And the ultimate goal are the two-turn dirt races next year for him for sure.
Oh, fantastic. Well, best of luck to you there. I know Corey and I are both rooting for you very hard. I think you have a great chance there in that Eddie D. And then Katona entered in the Breeders' Cup winning your end Grade 1 California Crown, formerly known as the Awesome Against Stakes, which you won last year with Slowdown Andy. Some big competition in this race with National Treasure, Muth, Senior Buscador. Tell us how Katona is doing following his last race, and how do you think Katona will fare against these rivals?
He's doing really well. We're a little disappointed in his last race, and he may have been victim of the old bounce theory. He ran so well off a long layoff the previous race, and I probably sometimes when you run that well off a layoff and you don't have him completely cranked, it'll zap some energy from him. So I think he was victim of that, but he has since come back. He's training well, and I think it's, like you say, it's a tough field, but 6-horse field in our own backyard. Tiago Pereira, who's a tremendous horseman, tremendous jockey. He knows him really well. I had him work him for me this past weekend. I wanted his opinion, and he gave the 2 thumbs up that he's doing as good as ever. So I think he's got a big chance.
Yeah, and Doug, I have to ask this because of my guys out in La Quinta and all of our friends that are involved in it. EJ won the Cup. How's he doing going into the Oklahoma Derby coming up this Sunday?
He's doing really well, Corey, and Don Rhodes and our boys, George Bishop and all those guys. Great group of guys. He's doing really, really well, and I think as a group, as a team, we've done a good job in spotting him just below the higher end horses, and he's been kicking butt in that AAA category, and he's doing well. He's there at Remington Park as we speak, settling in, and Mike, the great Hall of Famer Mike Smith's coming in to ride him on Sunday, and again, that's a tough race. There's a couple. It's probably the toughest race for him since the Santa Anita Derby. So. But he's coming in good shape, training well, and his form is obviously as good as it's ever been for him.
Well, we'll be rooting him to victory, hopefully on Sunday.
I love it. Sounds good, you guys.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. What an honor it was to meet you, and it's just been great talking. So good luck in the California Crown races this weekend.
Keep up the great work, you guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, Doug. We'll see you next time I'm in California. Thanks.
Sounds good. Take care.
What a down-to-earth guy. That was awesome.
Yeah, Doug's a great ambassador for the sport. He is a wealth of knowledge, industry talent, spots his horses correctly, and just a great guy to know, both as a trainer and as just a friend and a good guy for the sport, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, with that, let's get to handicapping. Get this Eddie D Stakes and California Crown Stakes at Santa Anita. So let's start with this Grade 2 Eddie D Stakes, going approximately 6.5 furlongs on the downhill turf course at Santa Anita for 3-year-olds and up. Nice field of 11 here. Last year's winner was Lane Way for trainer Richard Mandela, with Mike Smith aboard, winning by half a length over Bran. These downhill turf races are fun to handicap. That kind of a lot of similarities to handicapping Kentucky Downs. So what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so I obviously cut my teeth back, and I got the bug back at that same time that we just mentioned when I was, working with Merv and working with Doug back then. And what the hardest part about learning horse racing was that a 6.5 on the turf is not always the same. And in this case, 6.5 on the turf at Santa Anita is the most unique configuration, I think, in all of American racing, because you have a different turn, you cross the dirt. It's a really tough downhill style. So when you actually race and handicap the race, you don't handicap it on a straight turf 6.5 flat racing pedigree, style, back class, all that stuff all has to be taken into account. And I think honestly, when I'm looking at this race on Saturday, you always look at and I've learned over the years that if you look at the 6.5 on the downhill turf at Santa Anita, there are a couple of things that always hold. Dead sprinters do not usually do great on the downhill course. It doesn't play like a 6.5. So if you look through the race, I wanted to kind of see if I could eliminate a couple of horses to try to get down to where I think the race will end up. And if you look at the dead sprinters in here, Iman, Step Forward, Big Invasion, even with class, are pure sprinters. So I'm going to go ahead and toss them just as I work through my list here. Usually horses that have shown forwardly placed speed at a mile in their last race and cutback, I love that. That usually pays off in this race. It plays more like that like turf mile rather than a 6.5 sprint turf. And so in that case, First Piece, Two Rivers Over, Air Force Red, all have done that. They fit that profile, and I like that. And then I like to give a little bit in a graded stakes like this, a little bit of a bump up to those that have actually won graded stakes. And so Two Rivers Over and Air Force Red fit the bill there, right? And then, of course, it all comes down to what trainers have had success in turf sprints at Santa Anita. And between those two, Air Force Red, Leonard Powell, he's won for 14.7% with turf sprints at Santa Anita over the last 365 days, running out 11 times. Meanwhile, Doug O'Neill wins at 22% in turf sprints at Santa Anita over the last 365 days, and he's in the money 54% of the time. So with that said, shockingly, I'm going to go with Two Rivers Over, I think, in this race. And so I've worked my way down to that horse. There's a couple of things that I want to bring up from the stat lines perspective, like I always do, because I'm the data guy here, that I think are important. And Two Rivers Over broke his maiden in June of last year at Ellis Park in a maiden claiming 30. And while that looks like, that's not something you want to see in a graded stakes like this, it really blossomed. But 43 times a horse that ran in a maiden claiming race has run in the Eddie D. 4 of them have won, including Doug O'Neill with Quick Enough in 2010. 3 times they've finished second, 4 times third. So it can be done, right? I think if you look at this horse's running lines, Rivers really took off after winning that Zia Derby last November. And from there, then ran 4th, pretty competent, great effort in the grade 2 San Pasquale. Yeah. And then I love the company he kept there, finishing behind Newgate, who then won the grade 1 Santa Anita handicap in his next start out of that race. He's actually in the California Crown in the race after that on Saturday. And then Mixto, who just won the Pacific Classic, who finished 3rd in that race. And then, of course, Two Rivers comes out of that race to win the grade 2 Godolphin Mile against a bunch of salty horses, And I think that effort was an incredible effort. And the final furlong of that race was just something to watch as that horse just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming and showed a ton of class, right? So obviously you have to look at, he's been off since March. Doug gave us some inside information there, doing just fine. He mentioned that he's probably a 2-turn dirt horse, but I think he's got enough class. Has not shown a lot of interest on the turf, but I'm going to try to overlook that because I trust Doug to spot his horses correctly and just love the company lines. It's hard to overlook those. And also Doug's hot. Over the last 10 days, Doug O'Neill starters are 4 of 9 at 44% across all tracks, 6 times in the money, positive ROI. He and Maldonado over the last 10 days, 50% together, 2 of 4. So signs there that this horse could just use his class to carry it home. So I'm going to go and ride with Two Rivers Over on Saturday, trusting connections, trusting class, and hopefully he gets the job done in the end.
Oh, I love it. And obviously, Doug O'Neill is not a stranger to claiming horses and then winning a bunch of graded stakes, as we saw with Lava Man. Wow. I do like that horse a lot. I'm just so concerned that he's never been at that 6.5. Yeah. And, I kind of handicap this race the same way I do with Kentucky Downs, is either they love it or they hate it. And it's so hard to tell if they're going to really like it or not. But I do like that horse. I hope he's a nice price. He's definitely, a play underneath for me. But yeah, Morning Lines I don't think have come out yet.
They have not.
But I'm really liking this King of Gosford here. This Phil D'Amato. So 3 for 3 at Santa Anita, 2 for 2 at the 6.5 furlong distance at Santa Anita in the turf. I think it's a huge plus. Ranked first in the race and middle pace rating of a 108.9. His last 2 starts, he was 6th in that Oceanside Stakes at Del Mar going a mile on the turf, and then second by a length and a half in the La Jolla Handicap or Holic Handicap at Del Mar going mile and 16th in the turf. But besides those 2 races, he hasn't lost in North America. In that AOC 100K, he beat Final Boss by 1 3/4 lengths. He came back to win 2 in a row, including the Cinema Stakes at Santa Anita. In that John Shear Stakes, he beat Raging Torrent by a length. And Raging Torrent has now won 3 straight races, including most recently the Grade 2 Pat O'Brien Stakes at Del Mar, running a 125 Equibase speed figure, where he beat Senior Buscador and the Chosen Vron. So kind of, similarities with 2 Rivers Over. They're beating these big horses. This will be the first time in a graded stake, but I think this horse is something special in turf sprints, especially at this unique turf course. And past 3 years, Phil D'Amato and Antonio Fresu went at 33% and 58% in the money in turf sprint races together, 4 of 12. I think I'm going to get a good price on him, and just based on who he's beaten and his record here at Santa Anita, that's what I'm going with.
I noticed that running line too, Ben. I've noticed the Raging Torrent. That is a nice horse to look at in his past running lines. It did scare me though. A couple of things too. One is that obviously it's pacing older for the first time, so that's tough. I usually tend to shy away from those horses. Only facing 3-year-olds and some restricted overnight stakes. Okay, and so you're stepping up into graded competition, which is just it's a step up in class. I do like that last workout was pretty nice. 58.8 is pretty nice and pretty handy for the horse. I think obviously, D'Amato knows how to get it done. Freyu knows how to get it done, has shown ability on this turf course. You'll get a price out of it. I just worry about the step up in class and the step up in age, but I'm not going to talk you off the horse for sure. I actually think from a price standpoint, which could be interesting because I do think it may set up for him. I don't love the inside post, but that Johnny Padres horse just comes running.
That's my second pick as well.
Just comes running. And look, here's why I like it. I mean, look at that 111. That's pretty nice if you look at that in his last race in the Green Flash at 5 furlongs. And as I said, it doesn't always play like that, but he's like a flat, sprint race. But he's shown ability on this 6.5 turf course, has won multiple times going down the hill. And I think in this case, if you look at that, I love Graysons on the turf. I just think Graysons on the turf, that is a classic Southern California win moment, and they just relish it. And so I love the Grayson part. Has beaten First Piece before, who is also going to be in there, probably one of the favorites. Has won from this rail before, which is also not the great place to be on this downhill course because you get kind of trapped. But I do think that this horse's running style will allow him to swing out in the lane and try to run them all down. Should get a fair price. And should get some decent pace to run at, and should spice up the exotics.
I agree. I mean, he comes like a freight train. I mean, I'm sure you watched that Green Flash Handicap. He got second by 3/4 lengths, but he was dead last going into the lane. I mean, and then just boom, as you can see, in the third and fourth call, 10th to second. And then also Umberto Rispoli. I thought this is kind of interesting. In the last 2 years, and that 6.5 furlong downhill turf course at Santa Anita, he wins at 23% in all races, 27 for 120 and 45% in the money. So he knows how to ride this. I mean,
I trust him. He's ridden the horse before to a second by a half length coming out of the clouds. I trust Rispoli to know where to put the horse during the race, and I trust him to find a spot to run at when they cross the dirt coming for home.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's definitely going to be up there and run big. I think we're going to get a really nice price on him. I think that First Piece is going to get a ton of that money.
I do too.
On Saturday. But all right. Well, love it. So let's just move on to the big one. Grade 1, $1 million California Crown Stakes, formerly known as the Awesome Again Stakes. Breeders' Cup winning your end race for the Breeders' Cup Classic at Del Mar. Going a mile and an eighth in the dirt for 3-year-olds and up. Last year's winner was Slow Down Andy for none other than Doug O'Neill with Mario Gutierrez aboard. What an amazing race this is. I mean, I'm beyond excited to watch this. Yeah. This is going to be so much fun. I mean, the field's total earnings are over 21 million. Just like
probably a good piece of that is Buscador, but for sure, of course.
And 5 out of these 7 entries have won a Grade 1 race. So I'm so excited. That's going to be the highlight of my Saturday by far.
For sure. These are just quality horses. And, when you look at it again, I think I'm going to do something that I told you in the last race I usually try to hedge against, which is facing older for the first time. And I'm going to go with Muth in this race, the 3-year-old, right? So, again, as I said, first time facing older, but I think the consistency of this horse is absolutely remarkable. 5 wins and 2 seconds and 7 career starts, including 2 Grade 1s and a Grade 2. I think this horse is versatile, can be on the lead, can sit off and roll home. Just loves the track. 3 of 4 at Santa Anita Lifetime. That's a big plus because I'll tell you why here in a second. But and then the connections. I think there's just some amazing Baffert Hernandez stats that are every week we say them, and every week it's just like, come on. 3 of 4, 75% together over the last 10 days. All right. 4 of 6 together in stakes races over the last 45 days. 9 of 12, 75% together in route races over the last 45 days. And then this one just blew my mind. And these are all stat lines that are on Equibase entries page for this race. 9 of 10, 90% together in dirt route races over the past 45 days. 90%. That's actually
Equibase's stat line of the week.
It's just mind-boggling, right? So put all that together, and I have to go back and watch these videos. And you look at the way he won the Arkansas Derby back in March at Oaklawn, and went on the shelf for a bit after that, and then resurfaced in the Shared Belief at Del Mar on September 1st. Kind of, if you look at that, there's more of a hidden kind of inside race on that, where it just seemed to toyed with the field and had a lot more to go at the end, and probably had more to give if need be. But a really good tune-up. Will be set for best today in my mind. Get that race under his belt. Has recency over his stablemate Newgate, who absolutely loves Santa Anita. But Muth has got recency. Doesn't bring the question marks like National Turf does. Maybe Turf had National Treasure does. National Treasure might have had an excuse with the muddy surface, but I just think that he doesn't love Santa Anita either. Should sit the trip. 0 for 5. Then I think Muth should sit the trip, take over in the lane. And Baffert's won the race 8 times when it was the Awesome again, but won it 8 times, and this would be his first, obviously, as the California Crown. But I think he takes it home, and obviously having multiple shots in here, I think Muth is the one to get it done.
Wholeheartedly agree. That's my top pick. I think it's going to be a total Muth show on Saturday. And to kind of go on your point, with the 10 days and 45 days with Juan Hernandez and Bob Baffert, past 2 years, just in dirt routes, they win at 38%, 35% in dirt route graded at stakes races together. Actually, past 3 years, on 74% in the money. It's just nuts. And yeah, he loves Santa Anita. And I think, to your point, we got National Treasure 0 for 5, some Sanador 0 for 2, Senior Buscador 0 for 3, and Indispensable is 0 for 4 at Santa Anita. That's big. And those are all really, 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 really good horses. So that could be the deciding factor. Yeah, to me, it's all Muth. And I would be a lot less keen to pick him if he didn't have that last race in the Shared Belief, because that was a weird scratch out of that Preakness. No one really knows what happened.
Yeah.
So that would be a big question mark for him to come back and be in form, run a 108 Equibase speed figure. It's all Muth. And I think for the first time he'll be over 2-1. So
I think you'll get better than, if you look at his, it's just his payments. It's just been, his odds have been just nothing forever, right? So you might get an over 2-1 odds here, and that's worth a play in my book. And with these, Buscador and National Treasure, it might even be closer to 3. We'll see. But there's going to be an interesting contest for the lead in here, I think, and it's going to set up nicely. And I think Muth can sit the trip and figure out where he wants to go.
Yeah, I agree. Well, there we go. Last time we were both on a horse together, we won. So let's do it again with the
absolutely. Who you got underneath?
Actually, I'm going to go with the other Baffert, Newgate. So I think we're going to get a really nice price on him. I'm actually going to do a straight up exacta Muth Newgate and just try to make as much as I can. I think National Treasure and Senior Buscador are going to get just hammered 1-1, 2-1.
Yeah,
love Hall of Famer Johnny V up on this horse, Bob Baffert and John Velasquez. They win at 29%, 65% in the money in dirt route graded stakes races, and they win at 39% together in all dirt route races in the past 3 years. Won that Santa Anita handicap 2 starts back, wearing down Subsanador in the stretch, running a 111 Equibase speed figure. Love Santa Anita, like we said, 5 for 5 in the money, 100% in the exacta, 2 wins in 3 seconds. Tough outing in that Dubai World Cup. But, it's an extremely tough race on horses, and I think he'll benefit from that layoff, as we saw with Senior Buscador coming back, getting 4th by 6 lengths after his Dubai World Cup. But, yeah, going off that 180-plus day layoff, on the past 2 years, Bob Baffert wins at 24% with horses with 180-day-plus layoff and 67% in the money. That's why I love him for second. I think he might need this race to come back to win again. But underneath, I love it. Consistently fast horse, ran 100-plus Equibase speed figure in his last 6 starts. Ranked second in average class with a 111 and second in average speed with a 108. I think he's just going to grind it out down the stretch and get up for second at nice prices. It's kind of how I see it.
I mean, 5 for 5 in the exactas at Santa Anita says something about that horse. I think it's also in my handicapping life, beware of the longer price Baffert. Okay, in the race.
Yep.
And so I think he will be longer priced of those horses running. So you just be aware of that. But I'm actually looking at the other horse that ran a close second in the Santa Anita handicap to Newgate. That's that Subsanador horse for Mandela.
Interesting horse, yeah.
And it's a really interesting move. And I don't trust that 124 Equibase speed figure because I know the horse that beat Ilmir Miracolo in the Philip Iceland last time came back to not do wonderfully in his next start. So I would say maybe you don't look at the 124 as a true 124, but I think the Subsanador ran a much better race in that Philip Iceland than did Il Miracolo in that as well. And the breathtaking move around that far turn for Subsanador in that race just took your breath away to watch how quickly he went around every horse and then just took off and pulled away. So I think that just off of that, I'm anxious to see how this horse comes back and repeats itself. I mean, just missed the Newgate last year in the Santa Anita handicap, as we said. So, has recency on that horse, the Newgate coming all the way back from Maidan. So this horse has got some recency. Mandela's won this race 4 times out of his 11 starters, 36% there. Has not won at Santa Anita in 3 tries, a bit concerning, but, honestly has that close second last time by in the Santa Anita handicap by a head. I think this horse will get you a big price. And if he makes that type of move in this race, hopefully he sticks around for a piece.
Yeah, you make great points. You're kind of talking me onto him a little bit. I was just kind of confused about this horse. I didn't know what to pick him as, but that 0 for 3 at Santa Anita, I don't know. But he was 1 for 1 at this distance, and he barely got, second by a head. He looked really good that race. I mean, he just got nicked at the wire. But I think Mike Smith and Mandela, too, went at like 22% in the last 3 years in dirt route stakes races together. But Mike Smith,
you want to tell me that Mike Smith and Mandela together can't win this race, can't come up, can't finish second? I mean, yeah, of course. You're never going to talk me off a Mandela horse for sure.
I just want to hear, I guess we're both in the same thing. Why didn't you pick National Treasure and Senior Buscador in your top 2? Because I think we'll be very different than the betting public.
Yeah, I think National Treasure people will say, "Oh, excuse." I'll give them the excuse on the muddy surface, and maybe that's why the Whitney wasn't so wonderful. I honestly just look at National Treasure as kind of a run a great race or just kind of fold up the tent. And I think in this case, there's enough quality in here that I don't think he'll get an easy lead. And then I honestly think you don't know where this horse goes. And Buscador is going to come out of the clouds. It's going to come from last, of course. And I just think Muth has got a lot higher cruising speed, and Muth will probably get first run. And Buscador may pick up the pace in the lane, but I'm going to go with Muth because I think it's just got a higher top end and got a lot of upside on this horse that I think is going to just show on Saturday. And I couldn't be more confident in Muth running a big race on Saturday.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. I wonder how Senior Buscador is going to come back, especially getting 4th there in that Pat O'Brien was Raging Torrent won. But I just don't know. And I like Talamo. He's a really nice guy, but he's just not been riding top notch this year. I feel for the guy. So I don't know if I really trust him in this grade 1, but yeah. So, okay. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Corey, for being on once again. Thank you, Doug O'Neill. That was fantastic. And good luck in everybody's wagers this weekend. And we'll see you next week.